Welcome back to UFO Phenomenon Podcast, the show where we explore the most compelling mysteries in the skies and beyond.
We're your hosts, Cheryl and Aaron, and tonight we are diving into the most controversial and fascinating subjects in paranormal research.
Alien abductions
and UFO sightings.
That's right. For decades, ordinary people around the world have reported seeing strange craft in the sky. Some say they merely observed unexplained lights. Others claim they were taken aboard non-human vehicles. They describe missing time, medical examinations, encounters with beings unlike anything on Earth, and memories that would haunt them for the rest of their lives.
Are these stories evidence that we are being visited by extraterrestrial intelligences? Could they be psychological phenomena, sleep paralysis, or false memories? Or is there a deeper mystery unfolding right in front of us? Tonight we examine the most famous UFO sightings and alien abduction cases in history, from Betty and Barney Hill to Travis Walton, from the Pascagoula encounter to modern reports. We'll explore the evidence, the skeptics, and the enduring questions. So dim the lights, get comfortable, and join me as we investigate one of the greatest mysteries of our time. This is Alien Abductions and UFO Sightings, the cases that changed history.
Before the modern UFO era. Although this episode focuses on the modern era, reports of strange objects in the sky go back centuries. Ancient texts describe fiery chariots, glowing shields, and mysterious aerial phenomena. In the late 1800s, newspapers across the U.S. reported sightings of mysterious airships, craft said to be far more advanced than anything known at the time. These stories laid the groundwork for what would become the modern UFO phenomenon, but the true beginning came in the 1940s.
So today we're going to start with the 1940s, the birth of the modern UFO era. The Battle of Los Angeles happened in 1942. On the night of February 24th and 25th, 1942, just months after Pearl Harbor, residents of Los Angeles were awakened by air raid sirens. Searchlights crisscrossed the sky. Anti-aircraft batteries fired more than 1,400 shells at unidentified object. Photographs published in newspapers showed multiple searchlights converging on a mysterious shape. No enemy aircraft were found. No wreckage was recovered. The military later blamed war nerves and weather balloons, but to many this was the first major UFO event in modern American history.
Next, we have Kenneth Arnold and the Flying Saucers in 1947.
We briefly touched on that on the last podcast, but we'll
give you more in-depth here. On June 24th, 1947, businessman and pilot Kenneth Arnold was flying near Mount Rainier in Washington State. He observed 9 shiny objects moving at incredible speeds. He said they moved like saucers skipping across the water, which is where flying saucer comes from. The media seized on that phrase, and that's where it was born. The sighting ignited worldwide interest in UFOs.
The Roswell incident in 1947, which we also touched on this on the last podcast, but we'll read a little bit about it. Just 2 weeks later, rancher Mac Brazel discovered strange debris near Roswell, New Mexico. The local Army airfield issued a press release.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army,
claiming that they had recovered a flying disc. Within hours, officials retracted the statement and said the debris was from a weather balloon. Decades later, the Air Force stated the material came from Project Mogul, a classified balloon program designed to detect Soviet nuclear tests. Yet Roswell became the most famous UFO crash in history. Witnesses later alleged that bodies were recovered and that the truth was covered up. We've all heard of Roswell.
Everybody has. Okay, now we're going to move into the 1950s, the contactees and early UFO encounters. The 1950s saw an explosion of UFO reports. This era also introduced so-called contactees, or individuals who claim to communicate with benevolent beings from other planets.
First thing that happened in the 1950s was the McMinnville UFO photographs. In May of 1950, Paul and Evelyn Trent photographed a disc-shaped object over their farm near McMinnville, Oregon. The images were published in newspapers and later in Life magazine, becoming some of the most famous UFO photographs ever taken. Investigators have debated whether the object was genuine unknown craft or a small model suspended by a string. Decades later, the photographs are still frequently cited as one of the strongest early photographic UFO cases. I've seen interviews with Evelyn Trent, and she talked about it, and they never gained anything from these photographs. They never got any money, anything. I don't see a reason for them to lie, but there's a lot of skeptics saying otherwise. So,
Right. Washington, D.C. UFO flap of 1952. In July of 1952, radar operators at Washington National Airport and Andrews Air Force Base tracked unknown objects over the nation's capital. Pilots also reported visual sightings and jets were scrambled. The objects appeared to outmaneuver them. The Air Force attributed the radar returns to temperature inversions, but public fascination intensified.
boy, did it. That's one that's talked about a lot.
That's right.
In 1955, the Kelly-Hopkinsville encounter. In rural Kentucky, two families reported small glowing beings surrounding their farmhouse. The witnesses fired at the creatures, claiming the bullets had no effect. The entities floated and peered through the windows. This case helped inspire the images of small humanoid beings associated with UFOs, little green men.
Yeah, you'd really poop your pants if there were some little green men outside your window.
Okay, you get to do your favorite.
Yeah. Antonio Villas-Boas in 1957. This gentleman was a Brazilian farmer. He claimed that he was taken aboard a craft while working in a field. He described medical examinations and an encounter with a humanoid female. By encounter, we mean reproductive activity. This is one of the earliest and most detailed alien abduction reports. The very entertaining podcast to watch is Chris Ramsey, Area 52. He read out the entire story on his show, and hilarious. The way he read it was so funny.
Yes, it was very good.
Go and watch that because it's really worth a watch.
1957, Levelland, Texas. Motorists reported glowing objects that caused their car engines and headlights to fail. The electromagnetic effects made this case seem especially significant. All right, the 1960s, the first famous abduction. 1961, Betty and Barney Hill, perhaps the most influential abduction case of all time. Returning from vacation in Canada, Betty and Barney Hill noticed a bright object following them through rural New Hampshire. They later realized that they had approximately 2 hours missing. Under hypnosis, they described being taken aboard a craft and medically examined by humanoid beings.
September 19, 1961. Bonnie and I driving home from Montreal, saw a strange light in the sky, which changed direction, came in, started following us. In an area known as Indian Head, it came out over the highway, stopped in midair, and Bonnie got out with the binoculars in an attempt to identify this craft. And the craft began to descend, and he had the feeling they were trying to kidnap him. He ran back to the car. We went speeding down the highway to avoid capture, and then later They were standing in the middle of the road, blocking our way. This is what we saw when the car motor stalled out. You can see they're very human appearing.
Yeah.
Only here, you know, the eyes are wider spaced than ours.
Okay.
See?
Right.
The nose is smaller and a thin slit for a mouth. No hair, no protruding part of the ear. We were taken on board, and we were told to relax, no harm was going to come to us, and we did. About 6 weeks later, Bonnie and I had gone out in the evening, and when we came home, on the kitchen table was a pile of dried leaves, which wasn't there when we left. And when I went to clean up the pile of dried leaves, there was my blue earrings I was wearing that night. I went on TV. I was questioned by F. Lee Bailey. And then I sat down and had lie detector testing in front of the whole country. And I had very, very high ratings for honesty and truthfulness.
Betty drew a star map she said was shown to her by the entities, which turned out to be Zeta Reticuli. The Hill case established many of the core elements of modern abduction reports: missing time, medical examinations, gray-like beings, telepathic communication, fragmented memories. Their story reached millions and shaped UFO culture forever. I think if you're familiar with UFO abductions, you've heard of Betty and Barney Hill.
Yep.
I also heard that the Obamas are making a movie about Betty and Barney Hill, so that should be very interesting.
Yeah. All right, the Socorro incident of 1964. Police officer Lonnie Zamora observed an egg-shaped craft with two small figures near Socorro, New Mexico. He found burned brush and landing marks. This case remains one of the strongest close encounter reports due to Zamora's credibility and the physical evidence.
I really love the Lonnie Zamora case. It's very interesting. Westall School incident in 1966. Over 200 students and teachers in Australia reported seeing a descending object near their school. Multiple witnesses described a metallic craft and unusual military presence afterward.
Shag Harbor in 1967.
We also mentioned that in the last one, but we're going to go a little more into it.
Yep. Witnesses in Nova Scotia saw an object crash into the water. Search teams found no conventional wreckage. The Canadian government officially documented the incident as unexplained.
It's a very interesting case, and look into it.
Yep.
All right, now we're in the 1970s, the golden age of alien abductions.
Right.
The 1970s produced some of the most dramatic and influential abduction cases ever reported. The Pascagoula abduction of 1973. Shipyard workers Charles Hickens and Calvin Parker were fishing in Mississippi where they reported being taken aboard a craft. They described robotic-looking entities. Ooh. Police secretly recorded the men while alone in an interrogation room. Their emotional conversation convinced many investigators they genuinely believed their experiences.
Very exciting one is Travis Walton in 1975.
You all remember the movie Fire in the Sky?
Fire in the Sky.
That movie freaked me out the first time I saw it.
The aliens they used were pretty weird.
Yes.
Yep. After a logging crew in Arizona observed a glowing object, Travis Walton approached it and was struck by a beam of light. He disappeared for 5 days. When he returned, he described waking aboard a craft. The story became world famous and inspired the film Fire in the Sky.
Which was so creepy, the very end of the movie when they show on the craft.
Right.
Recently, there's been a little bit of controversy with the Travis Walton case. One of the guys came out saying that one of the other guys on his deathbed confession said it was all fake and they'd made it up and he didn't want
Reader's Digest or something?
National Enquirer.
National Enquirer.
He had actually done a thing for National Enquirer. It was a contest and you would win $5,000. And Travis didn't pass the lie detector test, but I believe the Travis Walton incident happened. So I don't know about the latest controversy, but I thought I'd throw that out there so you guys
Judge it for
decide.
yourself,
Yeah. The Allagash abductions of 1976. 4 men on a canoe trip in Maine reported seeing a bright object. Years later, under hypnosis, they described being taken aboard a craft. Their remarkably similar accounts attracted major attention. I think this was recently, Jesse Michaels interviewed the guys from this abduction case. It's very interesting. You check it out.
Colares, Brazil, 1977.
The Pilacaras
That's
case.
right. Face peelers?
Face peelers,
Yep.
yeah.
Residents reported lights that allegedly attacked people, causing burns and puncture wounds. The Brazilian military investigated under Operation Prato. Hundreds of pages of documents and photographs were later released. This remains one of the most compelling mass UFO waves in history.
Timothy Alberino talks a lot about the Pilacaras on his channel. He's spent a lot of time in Brazil and investigated a lot of this stuff, so that's interesting. All right, folks, now we're in the 1980s. Military witnesses and high strangeness cases.
Right.
The first one in 1980 is Rendlesham Forest, often called Britain's Roswell. U.S. Air Force personnel stationed at RAF Woodbridge reported strange lights and a possible landed craft nearby Rendlesham Forest. Lieutenant Colonel Charles Holt recorded his observations on audio tape. Radiation readings and witness testimony have kept this case in the spotlight for decades.
Also in 1980 is the Cache Landrum incident. 2 women and a child encountered a diamond-shaped craft over Texas. They reported severe burns, hair loss, and long-term health effects.
Wow.
Witnesses also saw numerous military helicopters escorting the object.
The next one was in 1987, Whitley Strieber and Communion. Author Whitley Strieber published Communion, describing repeated encounters with mysterious beings. And if you haven't seen the movie or read the book, check it out.
Yeah, that's good.
Good. The book's cover image became one of the most iconic depictions of a gray alien. There have been so many people that have resonated with the description or the picture that's been on the front of the book. Whitley Strieber heard from a ton of people talking about when they saw that. It brought back memories from their abductions.
Now, this poor guy has been abducted and abducted and abducted.
Yes.
Tested on, you name it, he's had it.
Yes.
Poor Whitley. Now we get to Bob Lazar in 1989. Bob Lazar claimed that he worked at a site called S4 near Area 51, where he allegedly reverse engineered extraterrestrial craft. He described a propulsion system using then undiscovered element later known as Moscovium, or element 115. His claims remain deeply controversial. Believers see him as a whistleblower. Skeptics point to missing records and inconsistencies.
Well, I don't think he has missing records, but George Knapp has done a great lot of work on this case. He's the one that, broke the story. He contacted EG&G and they said, yes, they did have Bob Lazar on file as working there, but would never send him the information no matter how many times he asked. And there has been a recent movie. It's S4, the Bob Lazar story by Luigi Venatelli. It's wonderful. And it shows you exactly what he saw in the UFO working on reverse engineering it. So check it out.
Check it out.
So all of these abduction cases through the years has brought on a lot of abduction researchers, and most notable is Bud Hopkins, artist and researcher who popularized abduction studies. Books include Missing Time, Intruders. He believed abductions were a real external phenomenon.
Next is Dr. John Mack, a Harvard psychiatrist who studied more than 200 experiencers. He concluded that the accounts were psychologically authentic. He did not insist they were extraterrestrial, but believed they could not be dismissed as mental illness.
What caused him to believe, convinced him, was the Zimbabwe incident at Ariel schools. He interviewed all of those children and found them to be being honest.
Very credible.
Yeah.
Yep. His work was controversial and led to a Harvard review.
Yes, they tried to fire him from Harvard for him, believing in abduction cases, but he was a tenured professor, and that did not work out for them.
Right. Better luck next time.
Notable researcher is David Jacobs, historian who focused on alleged hybridization programs. His conclusions are among the most controversial in the field, and yes, they are. Now we're going to talk about the common themes in alien abduction reports. Across thousands of reports, recurring elements include missing time. People discover hours have passed without explanation. Medical procedures, needles, reproductive examinations, and sample collection. Getting sexual material.
That was a big thing for Whitley Strieber.
Yes, it was.
A lot of material.
Yep. Telepathy, communication occurs directly to the mind. Most of them say that the extraterrestrials communicated with them through telepathy.
They never speak.
Yes. Environmental messages, which this was a big one at Ariel schools. Warnings about pollution, war, and humanity's future. Another one is hybrid children. Some abductees report being shown human-alien offspring.
Lifelong contact. Experiences begin in childhood and continue for decades. The repeated motifs are either evidence of a genuine phenomenon or evidence of shared cultural narratives.
Interesting.
Yep.
Okay, now we're going to go over the skeptical explanations. A big one is sleep paralysis. A person awakens but cannot move, which I have personally experienced, and you have as well.
A couple times, yeah.
It's super,
terrifying.
terrifying. Common features include you feel like there's a presence in the room, pressure on your chest,
Yep.
fear, hallucinations, pulling, pushing, tugging. You feel like you're being pulled out of bed or pushed into the bed.
Sometimes there's the helicopter sound. It sounds.
Yeah, a lot of people report hearing a whoomp, whoomp sound, and I've actually heard that sound. So it's very interesting.
Yep. False memories and hypnosis. Hypnosis can increase confidence in memories without increasing accuracy. Leading psychologists warn against treating hypnotically recovered memories as factual evidence.
Some people believe it's cultural influence. Movies, books, media-shaped expectations. Descriptions of grays became much more common after the Betty and Barney Hill case, and later in pop culture.
Psychological factors. Stress, trauma, and disassociation may contribute to some experiences. However, most abductees appear psychologically normal.
And now we're going to cover the believer's argument. Supporters of the phenomenon point to consistent reports across decades, physical marks and scars, collaborating witnesses, radar cases connected to sightings, emotional sincerity of experiencers, children reporting similar events. Believers argue that too many credible people report similar experiences for the phenomenon to be entirely imaginary. And one big thing for me is children. I know children can have a big imagination, but usually children are brutally honest.
They are.
they say things to you that you don't want them to.
Right. Okay, one of the best known sightings was the Phoenix Lights in 1997.
Yes.
Thousands of people observed a huge V-shaped formation over Phoenix. couldn't explain what it was.
Some of the witnesses to that were Kurt Russell. He was flying an airplane into Phoenix that night and witnessed it from the air. There's the governor. Was it the governor? He made fun of the incident, but
Brought
then
the alien on stage with his cameras all around.
But then later on, he, after he wasn't governor anymore, he came back and said he witnessed the Phoenix lights and believed it was real.
Right.
So that's
so funny
interesting.
then.
No. In the 2000s and 2004, the USS Nimitz Tic Tac incident happened. U.S. Navy pilots, including David Fravor, encountered a white oblong object off the coast of California. The incident became one of the most important modern military UFO cases, and that is where Tic Tac came from, because it was shaped like a white Tic Tac.
Yep. One of our most decorated, celebrated pilots that was part of the Top Gun program.
Yeah.
That's who that was that saw that.
I have no reason to think he would make any of that up.
There's no reason.
No.
Next was the O'Hare Airport sighting in 2006. Multiple witnesses saw a disc-shaped object over the O'Hare National Airport in Chicago. The FAA attributed to a weather phenomenon, swamp gas.
No, a hole punch cloud, I believe, is what they said it was, which I don't think they would mistake that.
Right.
In the 2010s, we got government confirmation. In 2014 to 15, gimbal and go fast videos. U.S. Navy pilots recorded unusual objects on infrared systems.
Yep.
We'll play those here.
Dude, this is a fucking drone, bro. There's a whole fleet of them. Look on the ASA. My gosh. They're all going against the wind. The wind's 120 knots from the west. Echo 6-1 Tango Logic, over. Oh, got it! Woohoo! Roger, there's troubleshooting.
In 2017, New York Times revelation. The New York Times revealed the Pentagon's secret UFO study program. ATIP, and the story helped push UFOs into the mainstream discussion.
Nope.
In 2019, the USS Omaha, it was the Sphere incident. Navy personnel filmed a spherical object entering the ocean.
Yeah,
Crazy.
And then we get to the 2020s in the UAP era. They're no longer UFOs, they're UAP.
There are always going to be UFOs here.
Right. In 2020, the U.S. Department of Defense officially released Navy UFO videos. In 2021, the Office of the Director of National Intelligence released a preliminary UAP report. In 2023 was the all-important David Grush testimony in front of Congress.
Yes.
He testified that he was told the U.S. possessed recovered non-human craft, and he provided no publicly released physical evidence.
He says we have had crash retrievals. We're in possession of them.
Non-human biologics.
Yes. If you haven't seen that congressional hearing, you should most definitely check it out.
Yep. From 2024 to 2025, ongoing congressional interest and additional hearings continue to keep UAPs in the public spotlight.
And they have. So out of all of these alien abduction cases, we have compiled a list of the most famous cases. Starting in number 6 is Whitley Strieber's account in Communion.
Right.
The movie is on Prime, or you can listen to the book on wherever you listen to podcasts or read the book. Number 5 is Allagash in 1976. Number 4 is the Travis Walton in 1975.
Yep.
Number 3 is Pascagoula in 1973. Number 2 is Antonio Villas Boas, which is a
Always a favorite.
Yeah.
Love that story.
And number 1 is Betty and Barney Hill. So check those out.
Good. So, what to take away from all this are the common themes of abductions: missing time, bright lights, paralysis, telepathic communication, medical examinations, hybrid or reproductive claims, and they return with fragmented memories.
Those are the most common themes. And as far as the government investigations, this is as follows. They did Project Sign in 1948, Project Grudge in 1949, Project Blue Book 1952 to 1969, A-Tip from 2007 to 2012, publicly revealed in 2017. They've had the UAP Task Force and AARO, AARO, All Domain Anomaly Resolution Office. But if you ask my opinion, that office became a huge joke, and we absolutely got nothing out of it. So
And now we have congressional hearings all the time, all this new information coming out, which is very exciting.
yes.
Yep. So this second episode was a little further in depth about some of the most famous abductions and sightings, things that every growing UFO lover should know about.
Yep. And if you're not new to the topic and just love UFO content, then this is also for you. But there's so many people new to the topic that we really want to kind of help you get a foothold on the information so you're not feeling overwhelmed, because there's a lot of it.
There is.
But once again, I also recommend The Phenomenon by James Fox. But there's a ton of really good UFO documentaries to check out. And that's really how I've learned, or we have learned everything that we have about it. So
Get used to it because it's coming.
Yes.
They're about to tell us all about it.
yeah, we could possibly be having a speech from the president. We've heard rumors that he has a speech prepared. Now, it may or may not be along lines with the new movie by Steven Spielberg, Disclosure Day.
Exciting.
But we've heard rumors that the speech is going to kind of coincide with that movie. So we'll find out.
Well,
Well, thank you guys for being here, and we'll see you next week.
thanks y'all.
Bye.
Bye.